Well, good morning, everyone. How you doing today? Sleeping in a strange bed with a strange pillow, strange children. Well, they're yours, but they're strange. You know better than anyone else. My name is Andrea Coli, spelled like E. coli without the E, but pronounced Coli. Really happy to be here with you all. I live in the East Bay in a city called Livermore. Livermore. 3 of us are here. I get the privilege of serving as the teaching pastor at our church there. The other hat I wear is that I get to lead with some amazing other female pastors an organization called Lead Bold, which is to empower and support women who are pastors in the local church. My husband leads a ministry over here on the peninsula called Wellspring, which provides soul care to pastors throughout the Bay Area and throughout California. We've got 2 girls, one who's just shy of 22 and one who is 17. So all the things happening. We moved here to the Bay Area almost 18 years ago. And then it was about a year later after that I got the privilege of getting to know Mount Hermon. I got to come here as our women's ministry came to the women's retreat here. And one of the things I was so looking forward to for this retreat was that I didn't have to do anything. Because I was new enough to the church. I wasn't leading anything. My youngest was 1. This was the first time I was going to be away from her. It was going to be so glorious. And then I got here and I knew the woman who was one of the people that was leading. And she came up to me on the first night and she said, "Hey, guess what? One of the workshop speakers is sick." And I told them, "You do one, like tomorrow." And in my mind, it was just this loud scream of like, "No!" But outwardly, I said the Christian thing, which was, "I'll pray about that." I did not pray about that. But God made it very clear to me that he wanted me to say yes to that. And it was one of the best yeses, reluctant though it was, that I said to God, because that has led to just a really beautiful relationship with Mount Hermon, where they are very generous to keep inviting me back to come speak. My girls have both been campers. They have both gone to summer camps, and we've gone to mother-daughter camp. My older daughter, who's actually here with me today, this week, she was on summer staff at Ponderosa for the last couple of years. While I didn't get the privilege of growing up here going to Mount Hermon, I'm so thankful that my kids got that. But enough about me. This is about you. No matter what it is that brought you here to be sitting where you are this morning, whether you've also been coming since you were a kid, or you were invited by somebody you know, or you came with your church, or maybe you're new to the area and you just thought you'd give it a try, I believe that God has something unique just for you. And I think that you probably believe that too. Otherwise, you wouldn't have taken the week off or done whatever it was you had to do to be able to get here. And so as we begin this day and this week, my encouragement to you is really simply to listen, to be present to what God has for you. Mark and I have prepared diligently our messages, but we both know that you're going to hear from God in all kinds of ways. It might be sitting with somebody at the dining hall. It might be walking through the redwoods. It might be watching your kids make a disgusting thing in their cup, which apparently Stephen's kids do. But just pay attention. God knows how to speak to you. You just have to be open. You just have to be listening. I hope you do that. If you don't already know it, you are going to discover that Mount Hermon is a very special place that God has been using for almost 120 years That's crazy. When Mount Hermon started, the main way to communicate to someone was a telegraph. When's the last time you sent a telegraph? Anyone? That is a long time ago. And so with all that said, it is good to be here this week, yeah? Turn to somebody next to you and say, it is good to be here. Yes. And I'm really thankful to get to be here with you. I think it's a privilege that this is where we find ourselves today. And while I think we all can agree that this is a really good place to be, there's certainly other places in life that we find ourselves where some of us like it and some of us don't. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of throw out some places to you, places that you've all been before. And some of you might like that place and others of you don't. And so I want to see from you, if you like being in that place, give me a thumbs up. So let's just make sure we all know how to do that. Thumbs up. And if you don't like being in that place, you guessed it, thumbs down. Okay, these are all subjective. There's no wrong answers. Just be true. Say your truth. Okay, I'll do it too. Okay, we're going to start out really easy. We already kind of established this one. So there actually is a right answer on this one, but Mount Hermon, thumbs up or thumbs down? Okay, good, you got it. Okay, what about the mall? The mall. I avoid malls at all costs. I do not like the mall. What about a golf course? Golf course. Oh, a lot of strong feelings about the golf course. We'll let you talk about that later. What about a barbecue at someone's house? Now, this one's tricky because doesn't it kind of depend on whose house it is? You know, like if you're at your annoying neighbor's house, like a friend. But I mean, hey, it kind of depends how much you like barbecue, whatever you're willing to put up with. So, all right, how about this one? A wedding reception. This one's very telling, a wedding reception. I'm a thumbs up on wedding receptions, although I will say this. Just 2 weeks ago, I officiated a wedding in Michigan. And the couple goes to our church here, but they flew me out there to do that. And so, I knew no one except for the couple. But so that was hard. But okay, moving on. Your garage. How many of you like your? Oh, I got a high thumbs up over there. You love your garage. I like my garage. I like organizing my garage. All right, so it's easy to see we all have different preferences. Some things we like, and then there's other places we don't. But also, there's also places that I'm going to bet I can name some places that none of you like to be. All right, let's see how I do. Here we go. The dentist. And I'm sorry if there's any dentists out there. We love you. We just don't like you. Let's try another one. The DMV. Yeah, verbal groan on that. Okay, and this one, I definitely have you on this. An outhouse. Oh, yeah, so bad. These are real life places that all of us have experienced, and we want to leave as soon as we can. When you're in a place like that, your goal is just to get out. No one's looking to spend more time in an outhouse, am I right? These are places that we find ourselves in, but they are certainly not places that we want to be. And if we shift a little bit away from the physical, really the harder ones that we maybe don't want to be in are often the spiritual places that we don't want to be. Places where we find ourselves when it comes to our faith or our relationship with God that we wish that we weren't in. We're people who are journeying on a path with Jesus, but inevitably, that path, it leads us somewhere we don't want to be. And it is often an uncomfortable place, or it's a place that maybe brings us some pain. You might find yourself in a place like this where you feel a little distant from God, and then that brings up all sorts of other feelings that don't feel good. You might find yourself in a place that you thought you already went through, and you're having this internal dialogue of why am I still here? Why am I back? And when we find ourselves in places like this, we can just go into survival mode. Our goal is to get through it. We are just hoping to get out of it as soon as we can. There's a lot of popular phrases that start with these words, wherever you go. In fact, I want you to say that with me right now. Wherever you go. Okay, and so let me show you a couple of them. Here's one. Let's say the wherever you go, and then I'll finish it. Ready? Wherever you go, that's where I'll follow. Oh, that's sweet. Isn't that sweet? You want somebody to say that to you. How about this one? Let's say it again. Ready? Wherever you go, go with all your heart. Oh, that's motivating and passion. That was Confucius, I believe. Here's one. Ready? Let's say it again. Wherever you go, no matter what the weather, always bring your own sunshine. And that's precious. Okay. But the one I like the most, because it's not flowery, it's just true. Here it is. Say the first part with me. Wherever you go, there you are. Like this one was written by a realist, not a poet, right? Wherever you're going, whatever you're gonna do there, however long you're gonna be there, however you got there, what is always true is there you are. And I think there is something important about us acknowledging that. Even if you don't like where you find yourself right now. And I don't mean Mount Hermon, because as we've established, we're all really glad we're here. But wherever you are that you don't like, you've got some choices about how you're gonna be while you're in that place. And like I said, our tendency when we're in a place that we don't like is to get through it, get past it, get over it as soon as possible. So we put a lot of effort into trying to do that. Or we go a little bit of the opposite way and we just pretend we're not there. We just fake it a little and kind of like fake it till you make it kind of vibes. We live like as if we're not in that place. But what if there is something that you can only get when you're in a place that you don't want to be? What if in your rush and your preoccupation to move on, you lose out on a gift that was there for you, right? In that hard place. What if there's something about God that you can only experience right in that very place? I believe that there is a way that God is able to meet us in a place like that it just doesn't happen when we're in a good place, when we're in a place that we like. There's a passage in the Old Testament that tells about an encounter that Abraham had with God. And on the surface, it sounds like it's about land and territory, and it is. I don't want to say that it's not, but as is often the case when we read an ancient text, there is this whole other layer of meaning that's easy for us to miss. And so when you look at this passage in a Jewish context, in an ancient Hebrew context, you're also going to see this larger message, a larger picture of what God might have been saying that's actually about more than just the physical land, but I think it speaks to these places where we find ourselves that are uncomfortable and discouraging and even painful sometimes. When you look deeper at this narrative, there's something there that I think God might also be saying to us about how we do life with him, how he wants to do life with us, no matter where we find ourselves on the road, no matter what land we're in. And so what I want to do in our time is explore this passage together. And I want to ask you to be thinking about the place that you're in right now that you don't want to be in. And maybe this has to do with a relationship that is not what you want it to be, or a problem that you're up against, or maybe your relationship with God not being what it used to be and you long for it to be like that again, or maybe it's just a season that you're in right now. And I'm gonna show you 4 different kinds of metaphorical places. And I'm gonna ask you to identify which one of those you're in the middle of. And my hope as you leave today is that you will get some hope and some guidance and some love from God, a gift from God that is for you right in the middle of where you are. I think one of the reasons that a Mount Hermon type of experience is often so powerful is that it's a place where you can step away from all your usual, all the pace of life, all your normal routine, and be honest with some things that are going on between you and God. So I'm gonna trust that our time together will be one that helps you and God kind of figure out what that is. And then we're gonna trust that he's gonna meet you right where you are. So the passage that we're gonna be in is gonna start in Genesis 12. If you wanna follow along on your phone or in the Bibles in the seats, you can do that. I'm also gonna have the verses up on the slide. I tend to use NIV, so if you have a different version, it might be a little bit different as I read it, but we're gonna be in Genesis 12. And this is the part of Genesis that tells the narrative of Abraham. And in the Jewish tradition, he was the patriarch of all of Israel. And his story starts with God telling him that he wants him to leave his homeland because he is going to birth a new nation that's going to begin with him and his wife, Sarah. Now, just a quick sidebar. At first, when this happens, their names are not Abraham and Sarah. They're Abram and Sarai. And names and name changes are very important. We're not going to talk about any of that. So I'm just going to call them Abraham and Sarah. It won't be confusing, trust me. I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. Okay, so back to where we were. We're going to be in verse 1 of chapter 12. God tells Abraham, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. Leave your people and go to a place that I will show you. And so Abraham and Sarah, they pick up, they leave their home, and they head to an unknown land. Now, this part in Abraham and Sarah's story is described in like 4 little tiny verses. We meet Abraham, God tells him to go, he goes, and really that's all that it says about that part. And so we just move on to the rest of Abraham's story. But I noticed that when we read the Bible, it's so easy to gloss over these big arching things that happen to people. So we read these verses and we're like, okay, he uprooted his entire life. He left everything he knew. He didn't know where he was going. And we're like, all right, next verse, what else happened? And like, think about that. Like that was a big deal. I one time moved from LA to Detroit and had like a total existential crisis of like, what have I done? I questioned all my life choices at that point. So if we could just pause for a second and really consider Abraham, this was huge. Like, hold him in your imagination, a real person with a real family that he was responsible for, all the feelings that go with that kind of a burden, and he finds himself on an unknown journey to an unknown place. And while, yes, he goes willingly, this is not what he imagined his life would be. And I don't think we can underestimate what a big deal this was for Abraham to do this. And when I think about him like a real person, it helps me resonate with him. So I want you to think about him that way. Well, he ends up in a land that's called Canaan. And by that time, he had likely traveled over 500 miles. And then we read that he had another encounter with God. We're going to skip up to verse 7 in Genesis 12. Here's what the Bible says. The Lord appeared to Abraham and said, to your offspring, I will give this land. And so Abraham built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. So it's like God is opening his arms, like if he has arms, I don't know if he has arms, but like metaphorically, he's opening his arms and he's saying, all of this is yours. And I imagine for Abraham, this was a very real demonstration of God's goodness. Because before God said, I'm gonna show you the land. But now this time he says, I'm gonna give you the land. And so here's Abraham. He's walking with God wherever it leads. And even in the uncomfortable unknown, God has something good for him. And Abraham is able to receive it. And then Abraham and his whole family, they keep going. They do some more migrating all over the place. They even make it all the way down into Egypt. And eventually Abraham finds himself back in Canaan, where God speaks to him again. Now, this time, God gives him some really specific instructions. Now, we're going to skip ahead to chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 14. The Lord said to Abram, look around from where you are to the north and the south and the east and the west. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. Skip to verse 17. Go, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I'm giving it to you. So he says, Abram, look to the north and the south and the east and the west. All of this land I'm going to give you. So go in to the land. This is more than God just giving him the land. It is an invitation to Abraham to go to all the places. All right, this is where it gets fun when we start to look at the layers behind this. See, we read this passage that says, look around to the north and the south and the east and the west, go walk the length and breadth of the land. Now, in the most generic sense, this is maybe a fancy way for God to say, all this is yours. Look around, everywhere you look, all of that is yours. But if we get a little bit more specific with it, maybe look at it geographically, we can ask ourselves, what kinds of places is God talking about? What is Abraham going to if he were to venture north or south or east or west? Let's stay there for a second. Now remember, he's in Canaan. So for him, to the north would have been mountains. To the south would have been a desert. To the east was where they actually believed was the origin. They believed that the Garden of Eden was to the east. And to the west, the waters of the Mediterranean Sea were there. So it could have simply meant all this different landscape, Abraham, is yours. From the mountains to the desert, to the water, to the garden. And that's pretty cool. But there's another layer that goes just a little bit deeper than just directional geographies. When you look at the words that are used, that are translated north, south, east, west. And I'm going to tell you what those are. And as I do that, I want you to, again, to be thinking about you. What land are you in right now? If you had to pick one of these lands, which one would it be? So the first one is north. He says, look to the north. Now this word in Hebrew that is translated north, it actually means hidden. The Hebrew word is saphon. Can you say saphon? Saphon. It means hidden. So it's translated as north in our Bibles, but it means hidden. And this makes sense because for ancient cultures, when they would associate north and hidden together, they thought of the north as being obscure, of being dark. Imagine the mountains covered in fog. Have you ever seen mountains where a cloud has just descended onto them? Some of you might feel like you're in a place right now where things are not clear, where you're experiencing a lot of uncertainty. I talked to so many people lately who are in some kind of transition, whether it's changing careers or whether it's grieving a loss that they didn't see coming. Maybe you're here in your 20s and the last few years have just felt like one transition after another, and that feels really uncertain. Maybe you've got kids that are going away to college here in a couple weeks, and that can be definitely feeling like you don't know what to expect. There's lots of things that can cause transition and lots of situations that can help us come to a place where we feel uncertain. And uncertainty can come when there's good change or when there's not so good change, because it's all about us not knowing how to navigate it. And when we're in a season like that and we're really unsure about what lies ahead, it can bring anxiety. Those of you that maybe are in a season like that, maybe you would say you are in the land of the north because you are experiencing some kind of uncertainty about your future. And when you're in a place like that, God can feel really far away because we want answers, and the answers aren't coming. And we're feeling sort of insecure because we don't know how to move forward. We want to move forward in the right way, but we literally don't know what to do. But in the narrative with Abraham, God tells him, go, walk it. Walk the north and the south and the east and the west. And we also know from God that he had said to Abraham, I have chosen you. I am blessing you. I will show you. In other words, I am with you no matter where you go. And if that's you this morning, if you're in a place of uncertainty, I want to just, if I could, just ask you to hold on to that for a minute. We're going to come back to that in a few minutes. Because there's others of you in the room that are going to resonate more with the south. I told you that south of Canaan was a desert. It was called the Negev. And the Hebrew word that is translated south in our Bibles is the Hebrew word Negev. Can you say that with me? Negev. And that word, because it is a desert, that word means parched. Can you feel that in your mouth? It is parched. And that makes sense because it was a desert. Some of you this morning are feeling like you're in your own kind of desert, dry and parched, spiritually speaking. I can tell you from firsthand experience that the desert is no joke. We used to live in Las Vegas. I don't know if you've been there recently, but it's hot there. I remember opening my car door, and you can literally see the shadow of heat waves on the asphalt. Like, that's not right. Here's one. I don't know if you know this. This is true. You know how in a normal world, you turn on the hot water and then you have to wait for it to get hot? In the summer, in Las Vegas, you turn on the cold water and you have to wait for it to get cold. It comes out hot at first. Isn't that weird? Livermore, where I live, is not quite that bad, but it does get hot there. Where my office is on our church campus, outside of that building, somebody put some flower boxes. But then I think they realized that none of us are going to be good at actually taking care of any flowers that are in those boxes. And so then someone else got this bright idea that they would just put like fake flowers in there, which, I mean, I'm not really normally a fan of that, but at least, they looked pretty all the time. Until this one summer, a couple summers ago, and we had an extensive several weeks of a lot of hotness. And I remember walking up to my office door, and I looked at these flowers, and the little silky petals had fallen off the fake stem, and the little fake leaves had crinkled up on the little plastic stem. And I was like, how hot does it have to be that even your fake flowers die? Like, that is what it was. And when you are in a desert place, spiritually, it feels that way, right? I mean, you are fallen off the vine. You are crinkled up to a version of what your former self was. You are parched. You feel empty. You feel disconnected to God. The practices that you used to do in your spiritual life that used to connect you with God, they don't seem to work anymore. And the longer it goes, you can feel the spiritual vitality kind of seeping out of your life. And in fact, maybe part of why you came this week is to get a mountaintop experience because you are desperate for anything to like jumpstart your spiritual life again. When you're in a spiritual desert, it can feel desperate. Like you are just hoping anything will stir. And it doesn't. And if that's you, then likely this is the land that you're in. And we're going to talk about how you can find hope in that land. So hold on to that for a moment, because there's others of you in here that resonate with the East. East of Canaan, like I said, was where they believed that the Garden of Eden would have been, humanity's origin story, where it all started. And so it might not be surprising to you that this Hebrew word, which is kedem, can you say kedem? Kedem, it's translated east in our Bibles. It can mean the beginning or the past. This is the communal idea, the place where all of humanity got its start. But again, we're looking at this metaphorically for ourselves. Mark said last night that the Bible was not written to us, but it was written for us. And so we apply this to ourselves, and we can think about it as having to do with our own personal past. Some of you might be in a place spiritually where you feel like your past is messing with your present, like your past is catching up with you. Maybe it's someone or something that hurt you. Maybe it's your own mistakes or failures or regrets that you've experienced. And what can be so discouraging when you're in this land in particular is so often you think, I thought I already dealt with this. But there it is again, right in front of you. I have a friend who went through a divorce a couple years ago, and she has done a lot of work to find healing and forgiveness after being betrayed. And she was sharing with me the other day, she said, some days I feel so whole and healed and positive, even toward my ex, but then one thing will come up. And it's like she's right back there feeling vulnerable, feeling broken. And it's like, why can't I just move on from this? In this land, if you're in it right now, there's some version of the East that you're in. Your temptation is probably just to power through it. Just shove it down, compartmentalize it, ignore it, deny it, whatever you've got to do. But in light of what we're talking about today, could it be that God is ready to meet you right there, right in the messiness of your past, and that he has something to give you if you're ready to receive it? If that's the land that you're in, I'm going to ask you too, if you could just hold on to that, because we've got one more. Because there's others of you that would say that you are in the West. And remember, that's the sea. That is the water, the waves, the chaos, the noise. The Hebrew word here is yam, and it means roar. Think about the roar that a turbulent sea might make. In fact, let's do this. On the count of 3, I want you in like a deep, like robust voice to say the word roar. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Roar. Yeah, life can be loud sometimes, right? For some of you, family life is a lot right now. You've got little kids that you're taking care of. Some of you have older parents that you're taking care of. Some of you, God have mercy, are doing both at the same time. And I got bad news for you. We don't have a lot of control sometimes over how loud our life gets. It's demanding, and we have so little margin, if any. If I had to pick a land for myself that I find myself in, it would be this one. I'm in a season where I have a lot of demands on me. Some of them are real, some of them are perception, but they still weigh heavy. I did not sleep well last night. That's unusual for me. But in this season, it's kind of not. And the normal, daily living things that I should have margin for, I just don't have margin for. I've been traveling. This is my 3rd week of traveling, and my house right now is like a food desert. You could not find a piece of fresh produce in my home right now if you searched and searched. And for me, when I feel the roar of the sea around me, my tendency is to just try to quiet it down. Maybe I can organize myself out of this chaos. Maybe if I get up even earlier, I can get a jump start on all this chaos. But what if instead, in the middle of the roar, was a place where I found God in a way that he can only be found in the roar? For those of you that are in the West, in the roar, what would you say is causing that roar for you? And where might you find God right in it? So we think about which land we're in, and we consider what God was saying to Abraham. I wonder if he is also saying to us, there will come a time as I ask you to walk your land, your life, where you won't like where you are. And everything in you will want to get out of it. But God says, I still want you to walk it. And when you do, you will find me there with you. What if, just for a moment, instead of looking to God for a solution, we first simply look for him? Our hope in whatever land we're in is found in God himself, in his presence with us. When we're in the midst of not knowing how to move forward because we're uncertain, when we have roar against our ears and we are at a loss and disoriented, God is present with you. I want to read from the Message version, Psalm 139, and it's not going to be up on the slide. I just want you to listen. Close your eyes if you want. And it says this: is there any place I can go to avoid your spirit, to be out of your sight? If I climb to the sky, you're there. If I go underground, you're there. If I flew on morning's wings to the far western horizon, you'd find me in a minute. You're already there waiting. You've given yourself the gift of a couple of days here to be in the redwoods. And there is no better place to be when you just need a minute to look for God. My encouragement to you is to take time, take even 10 minutes to get away, to pay attention, to tell God what land you're in, to ask him to help you find him. If you're in the north where it's feeling really uncertain, what if you looked for ways that God is trying to show you that he's there with you? Like in your very next step, you don't know step 2 or step 10 or step 20, but what if you were able to really embrace the reality that God, like Almighty God, is with you right there in the fog. Those of you that are in the South, you feel so dry and parched and empty. What would it be for you to stop trying so hard and instead just say, God, can you just show up for me today? Can you give me what I need today? Can you help me feel your closeness today? For those who are in the East, whatever the past is for you, whatever part of your past is coming back, could you look for God's presence in his forgiveness, his ability to forgive you, his promise to forgive you, his strength to give you the ability to forgive somebody else? You don't have to solve it. What if you just looked for your companion, your eternal companion, to be with you in it, to sustain you? And for those of you in the roar, what would it be to submit, to release all the ways you're trying to quiet it down, and instead to ask God's presence to be your peace right in the middle of all the chaos? There's a hymn that many of you might be familiar with that says, my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. I dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. Our hope is found in knowing that Jesus already did everything to bring God's presence right here, whatever land we're in. When we don't feel God's presence, or we don't see it, or we don't feel like we're experiencing it, it's not because it's not there. It's not because he's waiting for you to get your act together before he shows up. It is there. It is the reality of who God is. And that's based on what Jesus did and who God is. It's not based on you. But the invitation to you is to look for it. I hope today you will take time, just you and God, and do that. I want to pray for you as we move into our closing song. And so if you would just bow your head and close your eyes. And I want to pray for you by land. And so you can keep your eyes closed, but if you are in the land of the north, uncertain, not sure, would you just raise your hand so that I know that that is those of you who are in the north? God, for our sisters and brothers who are in the land of uncertainty, we ask for your tender, loving kindness to enfold them. We ask that they would feel secure in the midst of uncertainty because of who you are. Please raise your hand if you are in the south. You feel dry. You feel parched. Let me pray for you. God, have mercy. God, have mercy. We desire, my brothers and sisters here, desire to flourish in their life with you. Be the living water, Jesus. Be the living water. Who are those who feel you are in the east? Your past is catching up with you. Let me pray for you, God. Today, I ask for these brothers and sisters that, Jesus, that your sacrifice your perfectly sufficient sacrifice would overflow them with your grace and forgiveness, that you would free them, that you would break chains, that you would release strongholds. God, that you would give them the courage to face with honesty and vulnerably and authenticity to face their past. God, I ask that you would surround them with loving and wise people that would come alongside, that they can be honest and authentic with. And for those who are in the roar, who would say that they're in the roar, let me pray for you. God, it's so loud sometimes. We couldn't feel like we can't even hear you if you shout. We've been spinning our wheels and doing the same things over and over again, and yet nothing seems to grow. Nothing seems to take root. We feel like the seeds that got tossed away in the wind. And so for these brothers and sisters, we say that we trust on their behalf. I trust. Those with faith in this room will trust on their behalf that you, God, know how to speak to them, that you know how to shelter them, that you go ahead and behind and all around, above and below, that you would cover them with your peace. God, we believe you are a good God, a God who does not remove your presence from us based on our behavior. And so help us to find you. Help us to know you when we feel you, when we see you, when we hear you. God, do what only you can do, Jesus. And we ask this in the name of Jesus.